Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this 11th day of November at 11 a.m. This webinar is based on what to expect of your cleaning and care provider relative to, well, it's going to be focused on the cleaning perspective. My name is Brian Marenko. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Gearwash. I've been in the industry going on 30 years now. I've worked in various capacities as an ISP, worked for a manufacturer. During those 30 years, in all cases, I've been customer facing with helping end users implement 1851 best practice, be it doing it yourself, sourcing a third-party ISP, or doing a hybrid of both, where you do your after event cleanings and maybe you outsource to a third-party ISP for your annual requirements within 1851. So we'll dive into this. As I mentioned, this is going to have the focus on what to expect from your cleaning care provider from a cleaning perspective. As a third-party ISP, you have to reach out for verification, and there's two entities that do that, Underwriters Laboratories and Intertech. What a third-party ISP must do is contact one of those entities and go through an audit process for their cleaning, inspection, and repair protocols. As I mentioned today, we're going to be focusing on the cleaning aspect. So there's two levels in regards to cleaning that an ISP can be. The first level is a verified cleaner. This only pertains to cleaning. NFPA 1851 does not recognize a verified cleaner to perform any type of inspection or any type of repair, just cleaning only. What this means is a verified cleaner has their cleaning process audited, and if it meets the benchmark, which we'll discuss here in a few moments, they can attain a verified cleaner status only. If you use a verified cleaner, you would need to look towards a verified ISP to have your inspections and or repairs performed. A verified cleaner by itself is not recognized to provide anything but cleaning. So the second level is a verified independent service provider. This entails everything from being able to clean, being able to do inspection and repairs. It's a notch above a verified cleaner in that it's a much more rigorous process that a verified ISP goes through. Their cleaning process is audited just like a verified cleaner, but also their process is audited for their ability to provide inspection and ability to provide repairs. So the easy way to remember between both of them, verified cleaner is they're verified to do cleaning only, where a verified ISP is recognized to do everything you would need them to do outside of cleaning, in addition to cleaning. But whether you have a mobile unit, whether you have a brick and mortar facility, or if you have a few of both, in all cases, each facility needs to be verified on its own. So for example, if you have two mobile units and two brick and mortar facilities for a total of four, each one of those would need to have its own independent verification. So there would be four independent verifications, not one. One can't be shared amongst all four, but each one has to be verified on its own. So what's entailed in the verification process? Well, one thing to discuss up front is the cleaning validation only applies to outer shells. So as I go through this webinar, We'll get into a lot more detail, but keep in mind that this is only conducted on outer shells. It's not conducted on the moisture barrier or thermal liner, which touches your skin. It's not performed on gloves. It's not performed on hoods, not performed on helmets, not performed on boots. Only the outer shell. So as I go through this, the cleaning removal rates that I'm going to discuss, it's only on the outer shell. And with that, we work with a defined list of contaminants that is used in the cleaning validation process. So there's 18 known contaminants set forth by 1851. 2 are biocontaminants. 10 are semi-volatile organic compounds, or PAHs, and 6 are heavy metals. So this applies to whatever cleaning process you deploy, whether it be regular water washing, whether wash your extractor, or if you do CO2 cleaning. These 18 contaminants mentioned are what you're graded against. So with the 2 biocontaminants, what an ISP must do is demonstrate at least a 3 log reduction. For example, anything greater than 99.9% reduction. This is generally fairly easy for an ISP to meet the benchmark. In fact, in my time in doing this, I don't know of anyone who hasn't been able to attain this benchmark. It's pretty straightforward. So the next 2 groupings are your semi-volatile organic compounds, PAHs, and as you see, there's 10 of them there. A lot of them I really can't pronounce. And then you have heavy metals, and you see the 6 that are listed. Each is its own category, so there's a total 3 categories. Excuse me. First category is the bio one, which we just reviewed. Second category, semi-volatile organic compounds, and then the third category is heavy metals. So as you see on the previous screen, there were 10 semi-volatile organic compounds listed. Not sure if you are aware of this, but in all, there are over 100 semi-volatile organic compounds and PAHs that are out there. So from a verification standpoint, a verified ISP, verified cleaner, is only tested against 10% of them. And those were the 10 that were listed in the previous slide. So there's another 90 that are out there that likely have not been tested against. But in terms of verification, an ISP is graded on the 10 that were listed. At the same time, your heavy metals, there are a total of around 40 heavy metals out there. And again, from an ISP standpoint, for cleaning valve verification standpoint, they're only tested against 6 of the 40, so roughly 15% of what's out there. So very important in terms of context. When you hear removal rates, that the feel-good part of the removal rates is you want to draw the conclusion that that applies to all contaminants that you could come into contact with. But the reality, when you hear removal rates quoted, 9 times out of 10, it is aimed at the 10 semi-volatile organic compounds and the 6 heavy metal compounds that were listed in the slide before. So how does an ISP pass these requirements? What many of you may be surprised to learn or to hear is the benchmark is 50% on average removal rates is what an ISP has to do. Common belief would be 100% removal across the board. In fact, when you utilize a washing machine and you launder your equipment, I mean that's what you're hoping for, and sometimes that's what you feel is happening. But the reality of it is, for current science, 50% is what 1851 recognizes is an acceptable on average removal rate. So to put this into perspective, I talked a few minutes ago about these six heavy metals. Let's use those six. Um, from a testing standpoint, you're tested against the six. If you remove 100% of the first three contaminants, and if you remove none of the following three, you met the benchmark of 50%. You pass. So it's an on average removal rate. So the process that an ISP goes through is they're given an outer shell pair of pants, in this case here, and a jacket. But as you see in the photograph here, you see a pair of pants. And remember, earlier I said this only applies to outer shells. And so as you see, that's what's represented in the photo here. It is not a requirement. In fact, there aren't any requirements centered around testing a liner system, testing a hood, a helmet, pair of boots, pair of gloves. It's only outer shell only. So what you see in this photo is a pair of pants. Right in the center of the seat, you'll see it's a mesh pocket that's sewn on. And what happens is either Intertech or Underwriters Laboratories has a fabric swatch of material that they inoculate with semi-volatile organic compounds listed a few slides ago, and also the heavy metal compounds. And they're placed, as you see in the paper in that photograph, you can see where those pockets are located on the garments. And so those swatches are placed in those pockets. The pant and jacket are placed in a washing machine, and they're washed following the ISP's defined process. Once the cleaning process is complete, and oh, by the way, the auditor is there for the entire process from start to finish. So if an ISP's wash cycle is an hour long, that auditor is there for 1 hour watching the machine wash gear for an hour straight. So they're hands-on. They are there to observe the whole process to make sure that you're following your defined quality manual that's listed in your quality manual. Once that gear comes out from washing, it gets dried. Those samples are dried, and then they're placed in a Petri dish, as you again see in the photograph. That Petri dish is sent off to a lab. It's overnighted actually, and then they grade how much contaminant was removed from the swatch, and then that's how they generate their results. So it's a lengthy process. It's a process that happens every other year. So if you got verified this year, you wouldn't get verified again until 2026 for your cleaning validation. So it's an every other year process. In between that time, there's an unannounced audit where the verification entity comes in and unannounced, and they observe your cleaning practices as compared to your quality manual, just to make sure you are continuing to follow the same protocol. So there's some limits to the testing. As I mentioned earlier, it's limited to just the outer shell. Also mentioned earlier, it's limited to the 18 contaminants that we looked through and were previously defined. It does not account for everything you can come into contact with, not even close. So that's what's misrepresented within the industry. You hear removal rates, and your mind wants to go to it cleans anything and everything. The thing is, if it's not tested, then how can you make that claim? So what we do know is an ISP's process is tested against those 18 contaminants, and that's what you can base the science off of. What's also not tested is lithium-ion battery fires. In the current edition of 1851, there's no protocol that's outlined for uh, isolate what is anion lithium ion battery fire, and there isn't any protocols to test after the event. Um, that testing is currently underway. Uh, they're looking at what's contained in a lithium ion fire. It's easy to know that the battery is an issue, but also, what are the other contents of the vehicle, the interior, and how does that play into the list of contaminants relative to the lithium ion exposure. So the current science is underway to determine just what those things are. And here, hopefully in the near future, there should be some protocols that an ISP would be able to validate their cleaning process against, to know if they've been able to remove contaminants found in a lithium ion battery fire. So if you're watching social media, if you're paying attention to some of the marketing, some of the marketing has been gauged toward leading you to believe that regular washer extractor is becoming obsolete. Here's one of the quotes. The traditional way of laundering is with water. As with most things, that removes about 50% of carcinogens and bad things. CO2 will take out about 98 to 99%. Again, as I indicated earlier, likely this statement is referencing the 18 contaminants that an ISP is verified against. It certainly doesn't speak to over 100 of the PAHs and then upwards of 40 heavy metals. So if you're getting claims along this level, always ask to see the white paper test results, the independent testing that shows a cleaning process removed whatever chemical you're concerned with. As I indicated, the 18 that are listed, we have information about those. We're tested against those. But as for the others, it's a little bit of a misnomer. It's actually unknown, unless, of course, your ISP has taken on the testing for those other contaminants, especially the ones that you're concerned with. So from a water wash sense, water washing can absolutely remove 100% of contaminants. Also, by comparison, water washing is in some cases more effective than CO2, and in other cases, CO2 is more effective than water washing. Also, a little bit of information. CO2 also utilizes water washing for some of their test results, particularly when it comes to heavy metals and its ability to, water washing's ability to be able to remove some of the physical matter like construction debris off of gear. So what I've done, just to kind of drive this point home a little bit further, I've taken a washer extractor result that was done not too long ago. And as you'll see in this graphic here, I've highlighted where 100% removal from water washing occurred against those 10 contaminants. And pay attention to the right side of your screen where you see the calculated efficiency. You'll see the coat pocket, pant pockets. You'll see what the removal rates were. And then on the far right, you'll see what the average was. So as you see, water washing, while not at 100% all the time, it can and does achieve 100% removal rates. And for those that it doesn't achieve removal rates of 100%, as you'll see, we're in a 90 percentile when it comes to water washer extractor. So again, by comparison to that quote where water washing only removes 50%, as you see right here, that this is a validated test result and shows water washing can achieve those levels of removal rates. So ISPs have limitations. It's a misnomer to think an ISP has on-site lab testing capabilities. What I mean by this is you send a set of gear or a couple sets of gear that's contaminated with something. Um, the ISP that you're utilizing does not have a lab on premise to analyze the contaminants that could possibly be on those sets of gear. Uh, to further that, they don't have the ability to know what's on it completely. They will not have the ability to tell you that they've been able to completely remove whatever it is you're concerned about. Again, this goes back to the 18 contaminants listed. Um, those are the things that we do know an ISP is capable of removing, but anything over that, you would expect to see third-party test results that would indicate removal rates that would satisfy um, you from a cleaning care standpoint and being able to return that gear to active service. So again, to reiterate, the ISP checks against or their process is tested against the 18 contaminants defined within 1851. Currently, ISPs are not required to display their removal rates. All you need to know as of right now is if they're listed on UL's website or Intertech's website, you know they've met at least 50% on average removal rates. So if you're utilizing an ISP and you're curious as to what their removal rates are, you want to definitely ask them to share with you what their rates are. And that's the only way you're going to know as it's written currently. Also, key point, it's unlikely an ISP has tested their process beyond what's required by 1851. As you might imagine, it could become quite costly to test your process against 100 VOCs and PAHs and upwards of 40 heavy metals. It's not that it can't be done, it certainly could. And I would imagine an ISP would validate their process against other chemicals as needed. For example, if you had a set of gear contaminated with something outside of the 18 that you were concerned with, at that point, that would be a good point to check with your ISP to see if they've been test proven to be able to remove it. And if not, do they have the ability to test themselves to be able to remove it, to provide you with some level of assurance that that contaminant was removed from your PPE. So there's an upcoming revision of 1851, and what NFPA has done is they've consolidated 1851 and 1852 into a new standard called 1850, and so it includes both of those 1851 and 1852. Previously, if you wanted 1851, you had to go download the standard of 1851, and if you wanted 1852, you'd had to go download that separately. But now it's going to be combined together, and both of these are maintenance requirements. One's for turnout gear, one's for SCBA. This means you're going to have a much thicker book to look through. Where before you had volumes, and now it's going to be more of a telephone book, if you will, depending upon what your interest level is. But 1850 will revise this summer. It'll be the 2026 edition. It'll become effective in August of 2025. And a couple things relative to this subject that we're talking about, an ISP and their cleaning abilities. A couple things that are looking to hold true. It's going to provide optional cleaning validation for inner liners, helmets, hoods, boots, and gloves. So that'll be at the ISP's option, not a requirement. But one thing that tends to hold true with NFPA, if something is inserted as an option, usually within the next revision cycle, it becomes a requirement. So it would be at this point the ISP's option to test their process against these extra things. The other thing that looks to be that's going to hold true is ISPs will now have to show their removal rates. And the way that this will be accomplished is in the third party provider, be it UL or Intertech, will list the removal rates on the certificate that's issued to the ISP. And also that certificate would also be posted on their website. So no longer will you need to ask for the removal rates. You'll be able to log on and see them for yourself and know exactly where your ISP is when it comes to cleaning care validation. So again, that's going to come in very helpful because as I indicated, there's currently 18 things they're tested against. And anything outside of that, you're going to want to see, what that additional testing looks like. So that said, that wraps up the content that I have. Thank you for everyone for joining. Everyone be safe. Thank you.